I want to take a moment to read the statement put out by the director of ASIC, Robert Chernin, your host, Robert Chernin, the statement on the attacks on Israel. And so this will, Ben, can you pull it up on the screen? You got it? Okay. All right. So, excuse me. Israel is now at war on seven different fronts, fighting not only for her survival, but that of the West. As we reflect on the events of October 7th last year and Hamas's heinous, barbaric, and inane attack on Israel, several things are now clear. It is clear that Israel has the right to defend itself with or without the support of much of the Western world, who are apparently too afraid to call out the evil of Hamas and Iran for fear of violent protests, military retribution, or losing at the voting booth in their own countries. It is equally clear that the world has a double standard when it comes to Israel, where we should be vigorously and loudly supporting Israel, who is the vanguard in the battle of civilizations and fighting our battle for us. We instead find moral equivocation and the use of terms like proportionate response or the slow walking of needed weapons, and a refusal to stand up and condemn Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran in unequivocal terms in international forums like the UN. It is just as clear that much of the policies when Barack Obama was president, the Biden-Harris administration's policy of appeasement towards Iran, through the lessening of sanctions, paying ransom for the release of U.S. hostages, and unfreezing billions of dollars in assets, bears direct responsibility for Hamas' attack on Israel and Iran's resurgence as the chief sponsor of terrorism in the world, now directly linked to a new axis of evil, which includes China and Russia. Last, it is clear that the world does not truly care that there are hostages being held now for a year. If the world really cared, the names and faces of the hostages would be on the front page of every newspaper in the Western world every day. The fact that they are not, and that the world does not know their names, and somehow blames Israel when Hamas brutally murdered 6 hostages, speaks volumes to the fear and appeasement that has consumed U.S. foreign policy and that our so-called Western allies, and that of our so-called Western allies. We may not be able to define evil, but as a civilized society, we all know it when we see it. And if we cannot clearly say that Hamas's attack a year ago yesterday, was evil, which included the burning of babies while still alive, then as a society, we have clearly lost our moral compass and are beyond redemption. And I don't know how to say that last part. Do you know how to say that, Lori?
Am Yisrael Chai.
What is that? Can you share what that means with the audience?
So the literal translation is, I don't actually know. Am Yisrael Chai is the celebration of Israel together, and we're together in life. Chai is life, Israel is, and yeah. So I'm going to say we're all together with Israel, but I'm not sure that's the literal translation.
I like it. Well,
Yeah.
in
The people of Israel live, like something along that.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I am in agreement with Robert Chernin.
Absolutely. And kudos to Robert, because there are so many people, even in his statement with the appeasement and the fear that people have of pushing back, standing up for, defending Israel. Look, this didn't, you guys talk about this all the time. This didn't happen in a vacuum. And, we come off a cancel culture and then you go into something like this. People are scared. People, even the Jewish people, they won't even stand up because they're too afraid, and it's shameful. So good for Robert for saying it how it is and being very firm about it and very direct and calling it out, because it needs to be, and we all need to be able to stand up, because we all know this isn't just about the Jews and it's not just about Israel. This is about Western values, and if we don't stop it now and call it what it is, we're in a lot of trouble.
This is it. Okay. Lord Redic in the background said, the people of Israel live. So I like that. That feels like a call to action to me. like
Yeah.
as much as it is a blessing. I love it. Okay. So we'll get back to that a little bit later, you guys. But speaking of being bold, standing up, taking a stand, making sure that you're doing something about problems that you see out in the world. We've got Miss Veronica Robles with us today, and we're so excited to have her. Veronica, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, girl. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. You know, I'm sure the team told you while we were there talking about this, trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, you know, all that. Robert has a special place in his heart for that. You know, he is the guy who will fight for the underdog. He is the guy who wants to stand up to the bullies. And so you just see this fight come out of him when we start having these conversations. So, you know, why don't you start by sharing with our viewers, with our listeners, a little bit. Oh, Veronica? Well, she'll be back with us, I'm sure, in just a second. But there we go. All right. This is live television, ladies and gentlemen. Live radio. This is technical issues. No, I love it. We got you back.
She looked so pretty that the screen couldn't handle it. So
it was like,
I was like, we don't know what to do with that beauty.
You know, or maybe, or you guys, maybe this is the censorship bureau trying to chime in. They're like, no, there's no such thing as trafficking. No. So Veronica, share with our viewers and our listeners a little bit about why, you know, so first of all, let's actually look at your website, New Life. Hold on a second. I'm going to share my screen because this website is amazing.
Thank you.
So you've got this organization, New Light, New Life. And, you know, you are about helping women recover from being trafficked. So what gave you this idea for this business, for this nonprofit? Like, where did the inspiration come from?
So I have been a national makeup artist for 27 years. I've traveled with celebrities. I've worked with everybody from red carpet events to you name it. I've done it all. And that's been for 27 years. But 12 years ago, I was at an event and a lady came up to me and said, I'd like to hire you to do makeup. Can I invite you for coffee? And I said, sure, no problem. So I go and I have coffee with this lady. And as we're having the conversation, she says, I have 10 women that need their hair and makeup done. Can you do it tomorrow? And I said, sure, no problem. I show up to the hotel to do the makeup, never knowing why she wanted me there.
Oh, interesting.
I start doing makeup on the lady and I'm having conversation with her. She's very casual about it. Everything's going great. And next thing you know, she says, you're going up to do the girls. I said, oh, you don't get ready with them? And she goes, I don't mingle with those girls. So I was like, all right, no problem. Still never thinking anything. They were just models that were going to attend a celebrity party. As I show up to do the hair and makeup, the girls really look scared. The lady had already prepared me that these women didn't speak English. She's like, they're all Middle Eastern. They're not going to speak English to you. So when she said that, I said, all right, well, I guess we just won't talk. You know, she's like, there's not much to talk about. She goes, here's the look. You do it. You go home. I said, no problem. I start doing the makeup and 8 makeups into it. 2 of the girls look at me and they look like they wanted to say something, but they were just kind of hesitant. And one of them finally, with very broken English, says to me, I'm scared. And when she said that, I looked at her and I said, why are you scared? And I'm trying to, you know, pull it out of her. And she's not really talking at that point. She glances down, then looks back up me. And then after a few minutes, she says to me, we don't know where we're going and if we're coming back. At that moment, I was like, okay, how many times have I done someone's makeup and that woman was either sold? How many times have I done someone's makeup and she couldn't really come out and tell me what was going on? So at that point, I said, I have to do something about this. I immediately started texting a friend of mine who's with the police department, and I started telling her, hey, this is going on. This is where I'm at. 30 minutes later, they got there and they stopped it. And the
Wow.
biggest thing that was a big thing for me once I left there was, I want to be a part of this. How can I put an end to this? And, as many times as I've asked that question, they're like, it's difficult. It's going to be a task that's very difficult. It's the oldest profession since the beginning of time, right? And so they're like, for you to stop it, I don't know that you can stop it, but you certainly can make a difference with what you do. So I said, what can I do? So I started partnering up with some of the houses here in town, and I started doing hair and makeup for girls that were actually getting a job. And I said, I wanted to help them feel beautiful and feel empowered to be able to get that job, right? And, one thing leads to another. 12 years later, a year ago, I started the process of starting this nonprofit so that we could create an opportunity. And I come from the personal development world. And because of it, I said, if I learned how to survive on my own 7 years ago after a divorce, I was like, I can certainly teach them. I can certainly teach them how to get on their feet, how to become self-sufficient, and create a new life for themselves. And that's why I created New Light, New Life.
I knew I was going to get emotional during this segment. Like, I just knew it, off the bat. That story you just told, Veronica, really hit me, because that just made me go, how many times during a day or a week do I come across people? I literally, okay. Who else listening has been like at the gas station or the airport or like a random place, and there's a sign that's like, you can stop trafficking. And I always, like, a lot of times when I see it, it's in a place that, like, I'm like, bro, why is that here? That's such a weird place for that to be.
But it's happening everywhere.
The thing is, it happens in your backyard, your next door neighbor. You don't know. It happens you just don't know. You're like, but they seem like such a normal family. And it's happening with wherever you can't even imagine.
Are there signs that people are trained to look for, like when you're out in the world? Dr. Fineman, I'm sorry, Lori.
Yes.
What are there signs that you can teach people to be on the lookout for people who are like in distress?
Sure. I mean, you can notice, especially with kids, you can notice when they're forlorn, they're brought into a gas station and they're kind of just looking down, following the person in front of them. They look afraid. They're not making eye contact. There's actually a universal sign, and you're going to ask me what it is, and I don't know it off the top of my hand. And maybe Veronica, you know it, but there is a sign with your hand to let people know that you are in danger and that you're not okay, and to help rescue you. But if you go to the airports in Miami, or you go to the, I was just recently in the airport and I went to the bathroom, and when you close the door, there are the signs. I mean, it is literally happening everywhere. And I was going to ask Veronica, prior to seeing these women and working with them, how aware were you of human trafficking?
Good question.
I wasn't. It was not something I knew of. I mean, you've always heard that kids would go missing and things like that, but I was not aware of what to look for. And, it just was that gut intuition when you walk in and you see the behavior of the girls. Yeah. And one of the things that did stand out to me is I went to go separate her hair, because we were curling their hair, right? As I'm going to separate her hair, the girl looks at me and she goes like this. And I said, it's okay. But again, I'm communicating with women that don't know who I am. Yeah. I'm showing up
a lot of fear.
Well, and they don't know if you're part of it, right? Like, exactly. How do they know that you're not one of the traffickers or something like that? So oh, wow, that's wild.
And it's amazing because, over the past probably about 12 years, it's become way more spoken about and way more known about, at least in the bigger cities like Miami. Like, you hear about it all the time. And it's an area that I focused on in, I do a news aggregator, and it's one of the, 11 headings or 9 headings, I don't even know what it is, but that I focus on, and to see over the years the increase in how many articles there are on human trafficking, and how now it's going out of the big cities, and they're having busts everywhere, and they're having cops come and find 100 women at one time, specifically or particularly around big football games, betting things out in Vegas. The Super Bowl is one of the biggest days of human trafficking that there is.
That's crazy,
just last year, we had Formula One here. They rescued over 300 children.
Yep, that's what they say.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys. So this is the hand signal for SOS. Oh, are you guys hearing that echo? Or is it just me?
Yeah. I am hearing it.
Oh, hold on.
Can you ladies hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
And they apologize.
Okay.
There's the hand gesture.
Yes. I knew what I was talking about.
SOS.
So Veronica, I was looking over your website, and I think what you are doing is so amazing. And I was blown away when I heard that story, which is how this whole discussion even started. But to take what your skill set is and to be able to incorporate that and really come from a very holistic place for these girls, can you share with the listeners a little bit about what the components of the nonprofit are, and how these girls have been reacting to it, or these women, I should say, they're not all girls, but how they've been reacting to this program?
I'm getting a lot of great feedback from the community because it is a program that is going to encompass everything that's needed, from life skills to a physical transformation to a mindset program. We have a program right now where we're actually working on reprogramming that part of the brain that makes them continue to go back. 80% of women that come out of human trafficking go right back to their traffickers.
What?
Because of that lack of love, lack of loving themselves. So our program consists of many components. It's a program that's really going to help them encompass everything from self-love, just everything that they didn't have. Growing up,
so hold on. I'm sorry. I cannot, we can't just pass over that. Did you say 80% go back?
80% of women that come out of human trafficking, whether it's human trafficking or domestic violence, they go back to their abusers because that is what they're comfortable with. That is what they know. So when you don't know anything better, you're like, well, he loves me. This is what I know. So you keep going back to that person because you don't know any better, right? And so a lot of the times, a lot of these women, they'll get pregnant, and they'll get pregnant by their trafficker, and traffickers have rights. So they're like, well, he's the father of my child. I have to go back to him.
What?
So that's a whole other ball game.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So this is then it almost sounds like, the similar problem, right? Like you give a man a fish, feed him for a day, feed a man, or, teach him to fish, feed him forever. So it's like you can't just take them out. You can't just take victims out of the situation. You're saying it has to be a full-on rehabilitation program. They need to now learn ways to make money that isn't related to, bad stuff. They need to learn how to take care of themselves. And what does that look like to be in a normal relationship?
Yeah, exactly. What does it look like to be able to say, wow, so I make all this money, but it's not my money. It's for him. How much of it do I get to keep? I really don't get to keep much of it because I have to give it to him. If I'm sick, can I stay home? Well, no, because he needs me to go to work.
Oh, wow.
So those are things that, you have to teach them. Like, does he really love you? But does he? Because if he did, would he make you go to work even if you're sick?
Wow.
And for many of them, And for many of them, this is what they think love really is. Like you said, this is all they know. They've never had these experiences before, and so somebody giving them something, somebody showing them attention, somebody buying them a beautiful necklace, in order to keep them, or somebody even providing them housing, whether it's nice housing or not nice housing. All of that goes a very long way, and they equate that with love. And so,
and going back to that story, what you just said, sorry to interrupt you. A lot of these traffickers use their credit to get the homes. That's how.
Wow.
So they'll get a home, they won't pay for it, and they ruin their credit.
And
so now we are offering credit repair. Why? Because when they come out, they need to be able to buy a home, they need to be able to buy a car to get to work. So we're actually offering that. On top of that, we're giving them, once they've completed our program and successfully gone through everything, we will expunge their record. So no one will ever know that these ladies had a problem in their past. They're getting a fresh start from start to end, and we're giving them all the tools that they need for them to become self-sufficient.
Well, speaking of fresh start, we're going to have a fresh start after this break when we hear from our sponsor, ASIC, Defenders of American Freedom. So stay with us. You are hearing from Veronica Robles of New Life. I keep saying it backwards. New Life. Newlife.org. You guys go check out the website and stay with us. We're going to be right back.